All right. So this is your organizational sheet. You can see a lot of shapes on here. Today we're learning about the kite. Do you need one still?
Yeah.
We're learning about the kite. Look at your paper and think about which figure you think is the kite. Guesses? Yep. On the left, the right, the middle.
Top right.
Yes, the one to the far right all by himself is the kite. Now, technically, it's not a kite because, well, let's look. If I give you this, remember, that's not a 90-degree angle until I tell you. This is not a square, even though it looks like one, until I tell you, hey, it actually has 490 degrees and all sides are alike. So your paper has this kite-looking figure. Ooh, that was a terrible one. It's technically not a kite yet. Gosh, that looks just like the last one. Better. So that's the one that looks like a kite, but it's not a kite until we put the correct symbols in. You'll see there are 3 numbers below. There are 3 facts you need to know about a kite. Tomorrow we'll pick a different figure. You'll have to know more facts about that figure until we've got all of our figures known. So it's going to be fairly easy today. There's only 3 facts. But every day we're going to add more. So you just kind of want to refresh yourself. Here's what makes a kite a kite. I'm going to say it first and then I'll repeat it. It has 2 pair. Let's actually write this down. Number 1, 2 pair of consecutive congruent sides. I'll explain what that means. 2 pair of consecutive congruent sides. Consecutive means next to. So if I say 3, 4, 5, what's the next consecutive number? 6 is what's near it. So let's maybe make a note under consecutive. It means next to. Consecutive. Right next to. Let's break down how this looks in our picture. 2 pair of next to each other sides congruent. So here's a side. That's a terrible kite. Why is it taking me 3 tries to draw a good kite? That's better. Okay, so let's mark this side. Except that the kite, it's going to have another side right next to it that is congruent or matches. Those are next to each other. That's 1 pair of next to each other congruent sides. But this actually has 2 pairs. So this side and the one next to it match. Can I do this? No, that means they're all 4 alike. These are a pair, they match. These are a pair, they match. That's what makes a kite a kite. There are 2 other properties. So number 2, 1 pair of opposite angles congruent. Set your pencil down, please. I'm going to put some extra markings in my picture to show you something, and I don't want you to mess up your picture. This red angle and this red angle are opposites. This blue angle and this blue angle are opposites. The kite has 2 pair of opposite angles, but only one of those pair is congruent. So either the red angles match up or the blue angles match up. Do you have a guess just by looking which angles you think are alike, red or blue? Ooh, it is red. The red ones match. Here's how you know, see if you can follow this logic. If I take my kite and I look at it as two triangles, wouldn't this be reflexive? Wouldn't I now have two triangles by SSS? If these triangles are congruent, doesn't every part of this have to match every part of this? So wouldn't this red angle have to match this one because they're in the same place? That's why. These blue ones don't, because it's kind of like touching both triangles. That's kind of the process of how you know. But you don't have to go through that every time. It will always be the angle in between the two that are mismatched. So those match. These are mismatched. That angle matches this one. With your pencil, let's mark this angle congruent to this one. So the green one is 110, the other green one is 110. The other angles will be different numbers. Last property, diagonals are I'm going to fill in the blank in just a second. I'm going to draw the diagonals and see if we can come up with the answer. Go ahead and draw your diagonals. Let's do a dotted line so it's not like one of the outsides. This is the diagonal, and this is the diagonal. Okay, don't draw this. I'm just going to ask you some questions. Does it look like the diagonals are congruent, the same size? Does it look like this diagonal is the same size as this diagonal? Do not write they're congruent. They are not the same length. Does it look like this diagonal cuts this one in half, that this equals this? This does not look the same as that. No. Does it look like the diagonals are perpendicular? That's actually true. So diagonals are perpendicular. If you forget, you can draw it, and that might kind of remind you. Let's go ahead and draw perpendicular. So draw that right angle symbol. Technically, when I do perpendicular, I actually have 4 right angles. You can draw all 4 of them. You can draw 2 of them, 3 of them. I usually draw 1, but they're all 90. Okay, so there's your kite and 3 properties. Maybe it will help you someday if you make note cards. If you put this on the front and these 3 things on the back. When you see a kite, you're going to need to know these things about it. One other thing that we're going to talk about is, if I have a triangle, what do all 3 angles add up to in a triangle? 80. Did you know in any 4-sided figure, all 4 angles add up to a certain number? They do. I think you can figure out that number. What about the 4 angles in a rectangle? What do they add up to? 90. 90 is 180. 180 is 360. Every quadrilateral, quad 4, every 4-sided figure, all of these in this tree diagram are 4-sided figures. All of them are quadrilaterals. And all 4 angles will add to 360. They're not all going to be 90 every time, but they will always add to 360. So please, at the top of your paper, where it says quadrilaterals, I want you to write all 4 angles add to 360. Up here at the top, up here at the top, my quadrilaterals, all 4 angles add to 360 degrees. Does that mean all the sides are going to add to 360 degrees? No, all the angles add to 360 degrees. All right, let's use those facts to do some problems. Here's your white note sheet for this week and for next week and the following week. Also a place on here for your name. I actually only have 2 kite problems to start with. First question, you see this picture right off to the side. Measure of angle M equals measure of angle O equals. It's what a quiz or homework will ask you for. Okay, so let's look at our kite properties. Reread those 3 kite properties and think about which one you're going to use to solve this problem. Show me with your hand. Property 1, 2, or 3 you're going to use to apply to this problem. And one person with the right answer. Read the 3 kite properties. Okay, show me with your hands. Which property do you think we're going to use? 1, 2, or 3? Okay, so we're not getting this. Okay, so do I care about property 1? Do I care about the outsides, the length of this, 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 and this? Do I care about the lengths of the sides for this question? Doesn't look like it. Do I care about opposite angles? Do you think knowing a pair of opposite angles would help me with this problem? Aren't we asked about angles? Okay. So if there's one pair of opposite angles alike, let's mark those in our picture. Which angles are alike? Remember, it's between the mismatched sides. These match. These are mismatched. That matches this one. Property number 2 is the answer. If those angles are alike, do you think I can figure out how big they are? Well, what do all 4 have to add up to? All right, do some algebra mental math. Figure out how big these are if they all add to 360. And those are alike. You don't have to show this work. You can grab your calculator, type in 360 degrees minus 30 minus 55. That leaves me with 275 degrees left. And we can't use our phone. If there's 275 degrees left and they're both the same, divide by 2. That means one of them is 137 and a half, and they both match. So they're both 137 and a half. Do we understand it now? Now property 2 is like, oh, that's the property I want. You don't have to write out all this. This is if you're not sure how to do it without writing anything, just say this angle plus this angle plus this angle plus this, all add up to 360. If this is X and they match, they're both X. Let's look at the next question. Go ahead and write down measure of angle K equals measure of angle N equals. You're responsible for everything you miss while you're gone. So you're gonna have to rewatch the video or ask somebody when you come back. Okay, figure out which type property you want to use and see if you can find those two angles. Are we using property number 2 again? Okay, so we're not understanding our properties. Do I want to know about sides? Do I want to know about angles? Or do I want to know about diagonals in solving this problem? Which do I want to know about? Sides, angles, or diagonals? Angles. I want to know 2 angles. If I wanted diagonals, there would be some lines like this, and I want to know, say, that part or something. So I want to know about angles. And I know that either these match or these match, because there's only one pair that matches. Which pair is it? The pair in between the mismatched sides. These are mismatched, so this matches this. So if they match, and this one's 105, this one's got to be 105. All right, I've already found angle N, 105. Does that mean this is 105? No. These match. I don't know this one, but I know they all add to 360. What'd you get? Yes. So you take your calculator, 360 minus those, 65. If I gave you maybe some information like this, and I said, what is KN? Can you see how now we're using property number 1? I want to know about the sides. So KN matches this one, 5. All right, let's go back to your gold sheet for a second. We're going to do the, in this bottom right corner, there's a box that says midsegment of a triangle. Here's how you draw a mid-segment. Let's do it together in the bottom right corner of your gold sheet. You're going to eyeball the middle of this side, put a dot. If that's the middle, then this matches that. Eyeball the middle of this side. If that's the middle, that and that are alike. Connect those 2 dots. That is a midsegment. There are 2 properties of a midsegment. So off to this side, you can put a 1 or a 2 or 2 little bullet points. 2 things are always true about a midsegment. It will always be parallel to this side. We call this the third side because it's the side that wasn't picked. I did the middle of this and the middle of this. So this is the side not picked. It'll always be parallel to that. Parallel to third side. Parallel can be drawn with arrows or triangles. You don't have to draw both, just make sure you recognize both means parallel. An arrow or a triangle. The other thing that's always true about this mid-segment is it's going to be half of the third side. So write down mid-segment equals half of the third side. So if this is 10, this is not 10, it's half, it's 5. All right, we have 2 questions to answer on our white note sheet. First question.
Number 3, we define AC, BE, and AB.
Let's talk about AC because people always write 3. That's not correct. Things aren't always drawn to scale. You have to use the facts. The fact is the mid-segment is AB. So if this is the mid-segment, if A is the middle, aren't these the same? Whether it looks like 5 or not, the facts say it's the mid-segment, so this has to be 5. Likewise over here, if B is the middle, these are both 3. You'll hear me say it a lot. It might not always be drawn to scale. Use the facts. So 3 may be, this may look like 3, or 3 may look a little longer than 5. Just go with the numbers and make sure you use this. So first question, AC. A to C is 5. B to E, 3. See if you can figure out what AB is. Here's our fact. The mid-segment is half of the third side. So this is half of this third side. So how big is AB? 11. You do not have to show any work for this question. All right, one more. The facts are the mid-segment is AB. We need to find X. Tell me what's wrong with this. I know people are going to do this. Is that what the facts say about it? No. It does not say that the mid-segment equals the third side. That's not what it said. It's half the third side. So let's write that formula down. In words, please write down mid-segment equals half the third side. Okay, let's fill in exactly what this formula says. What is the mid-segment? 3x minus 4. Keep going. Half. What's the third side? The side that it's parallel to that we didn't pick. 5x minus 3.5. Let's talk about distributing. If you see this fraction and you want to distribute, that's not wrong. Here's why I wouldn't do that. If I distribute, aren't I going to get another fraction or decimal here? and then I have to work with the fraction and the decimal. You could do that if you want. But I would say instead of distributing a fraction, let's just get rid of the fraction. How do you get rid of it? You multiply by the reciprocal. If I multiply by 2, the fraction's gone. Let's do that. Multiply by 2 on both sides. So if I multiply by 2, I get 6x minus 8. Not minus 4. The whole thing is multiplied by 2. On the right. All right, keep going. You're just about at x. Keep doing your algebra. You can do that. That's just, that's double. That. All right, I got 4.5, so that's my first answer. That's x. How am I going to find AB? Here's AB. I know how big it is. So I'm going to plug in my x. Go ahead, use your calculator if you need. Plug in x. Then find DE by plugging in x. This one you would have to show, or even if you can do it without, I require you to show some work